I know there's a lot going on right now. This is all very sudden. I just wanted to say that I'm proud of you. You're a good person, and it shows. Life out here is so different from the vault. You know it's something I never wanted you to face. I'm glad to see it hasn't changed who you are. There aren't many who can say that about themselves. You make me very proud. Look at me, getting all sentimental. There's time for that when our work is done. Be careful, sweetie.
Come along with us on an idle ride through the latest science fiction and fantasy shows, movies, and video games. Welcome to Idle Ride. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my co-host and chosen brother, Paul.
It's just me, Paul.
And we have two amazing guests on today to talk about Fallout 3, 4, and New Vegas, the video games. And it's Cameron Harrison from Open Pike and Green Shirt, a Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation. Man, it's been a long time since I said that.
Wow, Marcy. Can't even remember the name of the podcast that got you started.
Forget the little people.
I just call it Green Shirt, so it's like, oh yeah, there's like a whole nother subtitle.
You were smart to give your podcast a 2-word title.
Yeah. And then John, who's also part of Open Pike and Green Shirt. They're friends of old, and they both love playing Fallout, so welcome,
man.
Guys.
Thank you. Thank
you. I love playing it. We'll see if I love talking about it.
I've been playing Fallout for 15 years. My pronouns are courier/lone wanderer.
So, John, since you, I know, love Fallout, why don't you start kind of talking about what got you into Fallout, or when did you first start playing it?
I first started playing at Fallout 3. I never played Fallout 1 and 2. I heard you and Cam always nerding out about it and loving it, and I just had never had exposure to it. And then I remember seeing the trailers for 3 and it being a first-person version instead of a top-down or three-quarters version. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So I played Fallout 3 and all of its DLCs on a MacBook running Boot Camp to run Windows. I played Fallout New Vegas on the Xbox 360, Fallout 4 on the PS4, and Fallout Shelter on iOS. So, yeah, I've been kind of constantly playing Fallout for 15 years now.
That's so expensive that you buy a new machine and operating system just to play Fallout.
Every time.
I mean, kind of. You're not wrong. Yeah, kind of.
It's why I got the PlayStation 4 to play Fallout 4. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
really? That's funny.
It's pretty much why I got it too.
Well, Cam, then why don't you kind of talk about your intro into Fallout?
Yeah, I wish I could remember. I've been racking my brain. I don't remember how I got it, but I did start with Fallout 2, not 1. I did have to go back and play 1 later. But 2, I just now Googled the release date, 1998, so I must have got it right around then, because I thought I was 15 or 16, but I guess I was 17. And just seeing that cover art with the insectoid body armor, the power armor, I just got nostalgia chills just seeing that image just now. I loved it. I don't know why I got it. I probably just picked it up from the little electronics store that Valdez, Alaska had, the Radio Shack, as they call it. And I do distinctly remember, though, just falling in love with it, and then every day going to school and sitting with my friends at the lunch table and just telling them about it. So I was obviously the first friend who got it, because I would be and then I came across the bridge guy from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I had to go through the questions. It was crazy. And then I walked into this town, and I shot up everybody, and they killed only 2 of my followers. And just having them enwrapped of the stories of the wasteland and just falling in love with it. And then 3 coming out and being nervous, are they going to be able to pull off a first-person shooter version of this? I don't know. Oh my gosh, they pulled it off!
Yeah.
I played 3 in New Vegas and 4, and we'll talk all about those.
Yeah, so we did a whole episode about 1 and 2 with just Paul and I think that random encounter with the bridge keeper from Monty Python is just like seared into everyone who's played that game
Yes.
when it first came out.
Because I think that's where you get the robe, right? You get a purple robe, and that was the only armor I'd wear from then on out. It was the best.
It was really good, yeah.
It was so good.
Let's just take a moment to pour one out for Fallout Tactics, the game which we're not going to talk about.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Poor Fallout Tactics. It tried.
It tried.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the development of Fallout 3 and 4. They were developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. And then because we're going to do New Vegas, which I didn't play much, I realized that it was a spin-off game is how they classify it. And it was actually developed by a different studio, Obsidian Entertainment, but just published by Bethesda Softworks. So that's interesting. And Bethesda acquired the rights to make Fallout intellectual property in 2004 after Interplay went bankrupt and they closed down Black Isle Studios, which was their RPG division. And Paul and I talked about that in the previous episode, that they were the ones that developed Fallout and also some of the Baldur's Gate.
Did they do Planescape Torment too?
They did, yes.
Okay.
And I think A Bard's Tale also.
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah.
And so they just got the rights to do Fallout 3 and then potentially 2 sequels. But then Interplay was just like going into the shithole. So they sold all of the intellectual property in 2007 to Bethesda. So I was kind of like Cam when you were talking about when Bethesda got the rights to Fallout. I was like, oh, how is this going to go? But we did have some knowledge that, well, they did Elder Scrolls, which was super popular. And I don't know, I like Bethesda games, especially now since I started playing Fallout and I enjoy the Fallout games. I kind of do look for Bethesda and I feel like they're a good studio that makes decent games.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Elder Scrolls too, so I had hope, but the Elder Scrolls are very serious, and Fallout was always like, what worked was kind of, it's like, yeah, sometimes we're serious, and sometimes you meet the bridge keeper from Monty Python,
Right.
Or sometimes you meet like an alien crashed UFO, and like that balance, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get that, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get that in a first-person shooter, and I think they did pull it back. I do think 3 and New Vegas and Fallout are, in fact, you have to like select a perk to have the weird wasteland to even get some of that, which I think was the smart move. I don't think it would have worked in first person, so I think they did make the right choices and kept what they needed to keep and changed what they needed to change.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it fits for this era of games.
Yeah, and they made VATS work in first person, which was kind of the big like question mark. Is like, how are they going to pull that off? And somehow they made it seamless.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that they, for people like me who are Dick Shot Marcy, cannot like aim well in games. It is really nice to have that fallback of like, where the fuck is that goddamn bloatfly?
Yes.
Okay, that's, you know.
Stingwing hiding out there in the thrushes. Yeah.
So I'm going to go over, we already kind of started talking about the gameplay a little bit, but I'll preface the gameplay with just a setting of Fallout if somebody is new to Fallout and didn't listen to our previous episode. So Fallout games are set in a post-global nuclear war apocalypse, but it's kind of also an alternative timeline game. The original Fallout games are set around 2100s in the West Coast, and then Fallout 3 and 4 change the setting more to like the East Coast area, and they're a little bit later in the 2200s. And one of the interesting things about it is that a lot of the world's technology is based on like the 1950s atomic age kind of concepts. And so previous episode, Paul and I went pretty big detail into the special system. But if you guys want to talk about it, that's fine. It's a role-playing game. Listen to our other episode if you want to go in deep about that. It's a single character that you play. You distribute skill points into different skills, and there's strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. And that's what special is. Do you guys have anything you want to add? Paul and I talked about it quite a bit the last episode about special as a system for role-playing games.
Just that their naming conventions are really, really clever.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like, none of those words are even like, oh, they had to stretch this to make it start with this letter. Like, they all make sense. And, oh, and it spells something.
Yeah, Paul and I basically described how every single skill, you know what it is when you read it. you don't have to think about, well, what's wisdom versus intelligence? You just kind of
Right.
know what it is.
Yeah.
And then we had to actually forgot to talk about perks last time, Paul. So I really want to talk about it this episode because I forgot, I don't know why we didn't, but how much fun it was, especially in 1 and 2 and even in 3 and 4, where you can get yourself these special perks that allow you to do. We kind of did with the exploding guts perk, but there's
Bloody
so
mess,
many
stuff like that.
bloody mess. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what my favorite one perk was, and I think for me it was one in Fallout 2, and it's really simple, but you fight these geckos and then you get a special perk where you have fire resistance and +1 strength, and it's right at the beginning of the game, and I'm yes. I remember being so excited to get it.
They do a good job of rewarding you with stuff like that early on to kind of get you hooked on the adrenaline of those little perks.
Well, we're
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
favorites. I think the Lady Killer and Man Eater ones.
Yeah.
Just because they tell you
Black Widow.
what you can.
Black Widow and Lady Killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like those. I also always enjoyed the Mysterious Stranger.
Yes.
Oh,
Mysterious
yeah.
Stranger, when those kick in and work, it's really fun to watch. I think Fallout 4 does those best. I think mine, I know it's always a waste of a perk, but Bloody Mess is a really fun one to take.
It is.
And then, man, usually I go with luck. I like a lot of the luck perks. I feel like they actually do kick in fairly often. And it's oh man, that really is handy when my, Grim Reaper Sprint, when your AP refills automatically on a kill. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
do
I've
a
done
bunch
that.
of VAT shots again. Very handy perk.
Yeah, that is handy. The one I always wish I had picked, but never do, is anything that lets you carry more stuff, like the Pack Rat perks.
I max that out.
30 minutes into a
yeah.
game, and I'm like, God, I should have picked that.
That's something we didn't talk about either, Marcy, is how stubborn
Over-encumbered?
you are about over-encumbrance.
I know encumbrance is part of this gameplay thing because, I'm oh, there's a little piece of flour. I have to pick that. Oh,
Yep.
here's some like a pillow that's in my inventory, and then I'm I don't want to drop this, and so instead of fast traveling, I walk in real life. It feels like for a fucking hour to get back to my settlement because I'm they might need this piece of fabric.
And Fallout rewards that, though. Fallout encourages that because not only do they have perks that let you carry more or eventually fast travel while over encumbered, but Fallout 4, the scrapping, well, all of them, the scrapping, the junking, the taking those raw materials and turning them into other things, they want you to just grab every little rusty shopping
The
cart
junk
you
gun.
see.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah,
junk gun.
yeah,
There's a gun
yeah.
that shoots random shit you pick up.
Yeah, that's
That was
great.
always my complaint with the Elder Scrolls is you could get rope and never use rope. And I'm I am an adventurer. I would need to use ropes. Let me use the rope. Let me get into caves. I couldn't get in otherwise. I don't know. And so, yeah, and then Fallout, I feel they've just continued you know what, let's let them use this stuff. Let's find a reason for them to carry this around until you get to Fallout 4, when I think they overplay their hand a bit, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I feel being a person who's more of a turn-based person, because I've already described, I'm not very good at shooting shit. It was really hard for me to transition to first person.
I'm sorry, Marcy. Next time I see you at a bar, I'm just going to yell, "Hey, dick shot!" From now on. I'm sorry. That's in my head
Paul
now.
knows, because that was when I was playing Last of Us. I could never get the gun with the controller up fast enough as I was shooting, and he'd die as I was shooting his dick. Anyway.
Yep, didn't happen.
I like turn-based engagements in a bar too. You say, "Hey, dick shot," and then Marcy gets a chance to just dramatically turn.
She can move 30 feet and then she can respond or act. Yeah.
Enough drinks in, that's what it feels like.
Oh my God, that's good. So I'm sure you guys, I'm guessing that you were okay with the change in perspective and playing it first person. I don't know. I definitely don't like third person 3D. Do you ever play where you're the camera behind the guy? Why the fuck did they even have that?
I'm going through all the old Zelda games with my son, and we just got to Ocarina of Time, the Nintendo 64, when it was all about oh, we've discovered 3D open worlds, but we don't know what the hell to do with the camera yet. And it's just floating there, and it's so awkward and terrible.
I've never played over the shoulder. Every once in a while, I'll accidentally hit the pad on my PS4 controller. I'm oh, No, back to first person.
Yeah, you go there to
What?
look at what
Yeah.
a new piece of armor looks like, and that's it.
Exactly. Yep. In which case, you just stand still for 2 minutes, and the camera starts coolly, dramatically circling around you. So, yeah.
I did like those scenes.
Yeah.
How often are you guys taking your female main character's clothes off? No, just kidding.
Once is all you need.
I struggle with the true, like, open concept worlds, like, staying on track. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit of ADHD. 3, I was okay with. Like, I felt like they kept you a little bit more on the rails. But 4, I have really struggled with such a huge world. And I like to play civ building games, like city building games. And they've added the city building concept. So now, like, all I fucking want to do is build my towns up and get more villagers. And I'm like, my fucking son, who cares about him? Like,
I got a town.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta, like, build up my town.
And guess what? It's under attack, Marcy. You need to go help defend it.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the truly just straight up open world concept where you don't really need to, like, do the main storyline?
Not having played 1 and 2, I really enjoyed jumping into 3 with first person and with open world. I hadn't played a lot of sandbox. I never played World of Warcraft or anything like that because I knew I would lose my entire freedom of time. So I hadn't played a lot of those before that. So it was really nice to just hop into a sandbox, play around. And I agree with you. I think 3 is definitely a little more on rails to the point where one of the DLC is entirely just a linear first person shooter. But, 4, having played 3 and New Vegas, I find 4 a lot easier, but I think it is the best of the open sandboxes.
I'm so weird. My enjoyment of games and how open world they are would look like, I don't know, the Grand Canyon? I don't know. A bit something that dips a lot and then goes back up.
I think they call it a bathtub curve.
Sure. Yes, a bathtub curve. There we go. Thank you, mathematician Paul. Because I'm a completionist at heart. So, like, give me a simple game like Super Mario Brothers where I can play it beginning to end. I know I'm going to hit everything. Great. Love those. And then you get into, like, some of the later, like, Final Fantasies I was just hating because I was like, there's so many little things that it kind of wants you to do, but you don't have to do, but I feel like I have to do, but they don't really, like, tell you how to do it.
GTA San Andreas, too.
Oh, man.
GTA 5. Yeah.
But once you get to, like, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, I don't know, even the GTA, it's like, it's so open world. I know there's no way I'm ever going to 100% them. Like, it's not possible. So, like, I shed that stress of it. And, like, I'm able to be free again as if I'm playing Super Mario Brothers all over. So, yeah, I like that. I think New Vegas actually does an amazing job at being open world, but really kind of suggesting the route you want to go, at least for, like, the first half.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll say it now. Of these 3, New Vegas is my favorite, and I think the best game. It's just a almost perfect video game, in my opinion.
I'm with you there, John.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can't really have an opinion on it because I've played, I think, just the intro, and then I never, like, went farther than that with New Vegas.
Just in terms of premise, most of the Fallouts are like, oh, my shelter got killed and everyone I love died and I'm doing revenge and saving people. And New Vegas is just like, I'm going to get the fucker who shot me in the head. And that's just way cooler.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I love starting as a vault dweller. Like that's classic. I get it. But there was kind of like a fresh new thing to be like, okay, I'm not a vault dweller. I have no memory. I don't know who I am. So that's kind of fun. And it was kind of a callback to Fallout 2 to Fallout 1, where in 1 you're a vault dweller, and 2 you're just the descendant of a vault dweller. Mm-hmm. Actually, I forget who you are in New Vegas. Who did you end up being?
You're just a
courier, but you had a pass.
Was all. Yeah, you had a pass. The pass was actually in a DLC. That's where. That's
right. Okay.
That's where Lonesome Road come in, and Honest Hearts. Yeah. Honestly,
because he had a tragic backstory, I remember. But
yes,
DLC.
Yeah, that's Lonesome Road.
Funny.
Yep.
Oh, John's the real, he knows his shit kind of
the
guy.
Lore Keeper.
I've been playing. I've played these games a lot. Definitely almost ruined a relationship playing Fallout 3. So.
Oh my god. That's funny.
But just going back to your point again, real quick, Marcy, like it is funny. Like I haven't played in years, decades for some of these, so I did play just like the opening of both 3 and New Vegas again to kind of remind myself. And I was like, oh yeah, I only did play New Vegas once. I don't really remember that much about this opening. Maybe I should play again, and just like go through the just the main quest. And I'm like, I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna just do the main quest. You can't. You tell yourself you're going to.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to play again, but just the main quest. Nope. You got to go do those your favorite side quests.
I tried that with Fallout 4 because I had never finished it.
Yeah.
I have never finished it, actually.
It honestly is the most boring main quest of those 3 games.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like the premise of it.
I like the
Me too.
premise,
Someone who
but I think
also
it's a boring...
hasn't finished it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to the wasteland radiation area, and I was so close, I think, to finishing it, because I could feel that this was close to the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, and then I stop, and the problem
Then you
is...
made a sandwich and...
Yeah,
Never came back.
exactly. And then, you're like, I guess I'm done playing this for a while, and then when you want to restart it again, and that's the problem with me.
Yeah.
I'm a serial restarter. Like, I can't, it's hard for me to go into the middle of the game again after it's been months since I played. So
And books.
anyway, and books, but I did do it for you,
But
Paul.
you did do it for me.
Problem. 3 did not have some of like the town building stuff that Fallout 4 has. So I like it, but I also hate it. Because I'm not very good at town building. Like, I'm not a Minecraft person or whatever. Like, I've seen what people have done in these games, and I'm just like, whoa. And I'm like, oh, I'll just put the pre-made cabin like 8 times here, or whatever. But it's fun. I want to have people in my villages, and it's really hard for me now to like play Fallout as if it was just a role-playing game where you're not building a town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm looking up, where should all my caravans go? What's the best caravan route for every single town?
Yeah, and Fallout 3 is about saving the capital wasteland. Fallout 4, I would say, is more about, well, okay, it's safe enough. Now can we rebuild the community? Can we rebuild the civilization a little bit? And that's where I feel like the tone change comes from those two.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I was so excited for Fallout 4. I don't know what the time difference was between New Vegas and 4, but yeah, huge Fallout fan. Couldn't wait for the new one.
2015.
7 years. So 7 years I was waiting to re-enter the wasteland. I'm pretty disappointed with Fallout 4. I am. Part of it is the base building. Like, I'm like, pick a lane, Fallout. Don't. And I feel this, a lot of games do this these days. Like, they try to be everything. Like, oh, well, people like first-person shooters. They also like base building. They also like this and this. And it's like, no, just do what you're good
they
at.
all have a fishing mini game nowadays.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, and again, I'm a completionist, so I'm like, the game is suggesting I build these towns, so I want to build these towns, and I know there's a way I can play this game and just ignore the base building, but I can't ignore it. So then, yes, and I'm not good at it like you, Marcy, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I just want to go explore the wasteland and run across weird, disturbing stories and Lost in the Wasteland. Like, there's even a drive-in movie theater you can turn into a base, which at first I was like, oh,
that's one of my biggest bases. Yeah.
But even that, I'm like, this is too much work, guys. I also feel like I don't know. I don't feel like you run into as much stuff in 4 as you do in the other games. I feel like you walk longer distances without running across anything.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm never going to play EVE Online, but there's something about EVE Online that I love, and that's that you can choose to play just one thing in the game. You can be a miner. You can be a pirate. And, like, there's no game mechanic forcing you to be one or the other. I think that these games should have, like, for the Camerons out there, no base building. Just do your wandering and, like, you contribute to someone else's base economy.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sort of a
That'd be
Death
fun.
Stranding approach kind of thing with mild bits of multiplayer helping each other out in the background kind of deal.
That's interesting.
I'd be a raider, because why not?
Ew, no, don't be a cannibal, Paul. Jesus.
So, Paul, you're going to want to play Fallout 4 because that's where you can be a raider.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest controversies about Fallout 4 was that they had a fully voiced protagonist. So they had never before had a voiced protagonist. And I remember this being really a big issue when it first came out, because generally you're allowed to imagine, like, what does your hero sound like? They just have text, right? And I don't know how you feel about it. I have played it so much that I'm not, like, offended by the fact that there's a voice. But it is interesting to think about because it could sound regional, right? So then you couldn't imagine it as a certain other thing. Like, you know, I don't know. I think having a voice forces you kind of into this box of what you might imagine the character to be. It's not just full imagination, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that argument holds up right up until you dress up as the Silver Shroud and have speech options as the Silver Shroud. Then it's like, nope, I love it. I love that they did this. I have no problem with this whatsoever. So, if you have not done that, do it. It's really fun.
Again, I put the game down a couple of years ago and haven't picked it back up. Watching the TV show, I'm ready to dive back into 4, and I'm going to try to just do the main quest. And we'll see how that goes.
Your face is just like my face. He's like, head was down, and he was like, I can do this.
I'm saying the words out loud, and I know I'm lying.
What you need is you should stream it so that there can be people there just being like, no, Cam, don't do that.
That's
You're
right. Yes, I need my
like, we
support
need
group.
to have a bunch of us feeding into Marcy's Idle Ride stream and just be like, all right, who's playing what way right now? Yeah.
But all that to say, like, I forgot that was a thing, and now I'm thinking back. It doesn't bother me too much. I definitely don't think they need it. I like, you know, kind of being able to put myself into the chosen options. Like, yeah, you just read them. I do remember that being a couple times where I would pick an option, and then the tone of his voice would be so different than the way I read it. I was like, what the hell? I didn't choose the sarcastic option.
Oh, yeah, the emotion.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, so snotty sometimes when I'm just like, you don't have to be
Yeah.
snotty.
No, I chose
Yeah, the choice
good
is like a
option.
2-word response of like, so what? It's like, oh, psh, I don't give a damn about that. How whatever. Like, no, I just said so what? Yes. Man, don't be such an asshole,
right.
me.
That's right. I guess the flip side is, again, I've been playing the Zelda games with my 9-year-old son, and the new ones, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Whenever Link talks, like, he never talks. Sometimes you just see him move his hands as if he's telling a story. And my son is so confused by this. He's like, why doesn't Link talk? And I'm trying to explain to him the idea of, like, becoming the Avatar, and he's like the Nickelodeon show that Aunt Marcy podcast about. I'm like, no, it's not an Avatar like that. I don't know how to explain this.
That's so funny. Yeah, just like those concepts of that you are embodying the character, so they don't want you to like hear a voice that might influence what you're thinking.
But I don't think a lot of 9-year-olds are playing Fallout.
Oh, yeah. So any other gameplay stuff that you want to talk about that you feel like I've missed or haven't addressed?
I'm going to bring it up. I remember I was 3/4 of the way through Fallout 3 and was sitting at Cam's apartment talking one day, and he's like, oh, just use Mentats. I'm like, what are Mentats? I had never used a single drug. You're supposed to take drugs, and I had not used Jet. I had not used Psycho. I had not used Mentats. And I remember picking them up. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this I've never played
just
Fallout
sell that
before. And I wasn't, because I had a huge stockpile. And so I was
because John didn't want to be a pusher.
Constantly high for the rest of that story. It's like, oh, I have 150 of each of these things. All right, let's go nuts. And the drug
That's
use
hilarious.
and the different types, like that's the thing, you know, it was pretty basic. Jet, Psycho, Mentats, Buff Out. I'd used Radix and Radaway. Those made sense.
Sure.
But those have grown.
Stim packs.
Stim packs. Those grew from Fallout 3 to New Vegas, and then they just went nuts in Fallout 4 with all the variations you can make on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grape Mentats, my favorite.
Yeah, great Mentats. Psycho Buff is good.
With Mentats, I know I saw the 80s Dune movie, but like it didn't really stay on my register. So Fallout was like Mentats, and then someone was like, "That's a Dune reference," and I was like, "What?"
It's a Mentos and Dune reference, I'm pretty sure.
True, that's true.
Yeah.
The Smart Maker, something like that, you know.
I always
it.
play my characters as really straight and narrow. So it took me a long time to get into the drugs. I was like you. I've never touched the things. But then eventually, again, my completionist, I was like, I just need 2 more points in intelligence and I can get the conversation option that will open that door and let me go in there and get X thing that I really don't care about, but I need to get it because I know it's in there. I know it's there. I need it. Okay, give me a minute. And then the drugs become a thing. Yeah.
And that's how we all understand addiction.
That's right.
Right. Well, and thank goodness you can get Addictol, and then I hate being addicted, but I just use Addictol every time I get addicted to something. Cure it, baby.
Or just go to a doctor and he cures your addiction for 40 caps. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as a woman, I'm very happy that, we've come to the era where you can pick a character that really you want to pretend to be or feel represented by. And I think every new generation of games is doing a lot better at creating options for people of different races. And I think I like that about the new games, because I do always remember being like, now I have to play Mario again. How do I relate to him? At least the older games, it was obviously they were made for kids, but I love that you have more options now. So now if I play a game where I don't really have an option, I'm like, okay, you can play a dude, Marcy. It's not that big a deal.
You've been doing it for years.
I know. But once you get the taste of being who you want to be, you don't want to go back.
Not to sidetrack, but it does seem crazy to me that they haven't made a Zelda game where you get to play Zelda.
Right?
How is that not happening? It's the name of the game.
Is nuts.
Let us play Zelda once at least. Yeah.
All right, so let's go a little bit more deeply into the individual games. I'm going to do just a basic, quick description of the plots, but I'm sure you guys will fill it in because I have bad memory anyway. So for Fallout 3, the game came out in 2008. Your character grows up in Vault 101. Your father was a scientist. He leaves the vault without explanation. You go in search of him, and you find out that he's trying to save the wasteland. So you'd go through all these trials and tribulations to help him purify the water in the capital wastes. So that's just the basics. And Paul, just before we get too deep into it, last episode was I can't believe they haven't done anything with Gex. And then I'm reading the plot. I was like, I guess a big part of Fallout 3 was you're looking for a fucking Gex. Yes. I completely forgot that part because I remembered it being about purifying the water. So I thought we had to get water purifier. I completely forgot about the Gex stuff. But.
To be fair, I only played the first half of it, plus all of the random quests that I found along the way.
I think for me, some of the things that, first of all, I did finish Fallout 3, which is a huge accomplishment. And some of the things that I remember that were really cool to me when I first did it was I loved the look of Megaton. I thought it was super cool, when you get to that first town. I loved the sheriff. It was just, the feel of it was really awesome. And then the other really cool scene is when Liberty Prime, when you get to the very end and you're following Liberty Prime, it's this gigantic, huge robot that's basically looks like the Iron Giant. And I was like, probably this is how Paul feels whenever he plays that God of War game, but I don't play those games. So it was oh my God, you look up as the character and you see this giant robot walking. It was so that's seared into my brain. So that's why I really love Fallout 3. So those are two things that I really liked about that game.
Mm-hmm.
Play some Shadow of the Colossus in your Fallout.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Megaton is very iconic. And again, that's kind of that smart just game design where once you leave your vault, you can go anywhere. But most people are going to stumble across Megaton and start in on those quests, and which all leads you onward in the way you should go. But again, you can do whatever. You can just become a raider when you leave if you want.
Yeah.
Did anyone else get maybe just a little bit starstruck when they actually met Three Dog in Fallout
Yes.
3?
Oh,
After
yeah.
listening to him on the radio for so long, you're like, oh, you're actually a character I get to meet and talk to? This is cool.
And I'm amazed they haven't brought another DJ like Three Dog or another personality like that into Fallout New Vegas or 4. But yeah, Three Dog was such a fun, just constant presence. I mean, there is some scenario where you kill and eat Three Dog as a cannibal perk kind of thing. And I know you get something from that, but... I will say now I have had, I mean, like I said, that was 4 computers ago, 2 save versions. I did blow up Megaton one time just because I wanted to see what it looked like. I did go the 10 penny route instead of the Megaton route. And then when you get back to Megaton and discover the horrifying truth once you've blown it up, it's even worse. I really enjoy I think the thing I enjoyed the least, honestly, was that you had to get extra DLC to play after you finish the game. Like, the game stopped if you finish the waters of whatever the final mission. It's like, all right, good work, here's the ending, thanks for playing. And it's like, oh no, now you got to go back and get broken steel, and then you can keep playing, get 10 more levels. And I'm glad New Vegas and Fallout 4 didn't follow that same mechanic. But also, Liam Neeson's your dad. I mean, come on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have to find him?
Yeah.
I know.
It's like
That's
reverse
part of the
take.
plot.
He disappears. Yeah, he disappears.
Oh.
You got to
Oh,
find
yeah.
Liam Neeson. Yeah. Yep.
I love, when I don't get a joke. I'm like, what is Paul talking
Yeah, Paul,
about? It takes me
stupid.
a good 20 seconds before I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that is funny, Paul.
I have a very particular set of skills. 17 points in small guns, 32 points in lockpick, 47 points in explosives.
A bunch of lead belly for some reason. I don't know why I took that. Yeah.
Paul, what did you like about Fallout 3, or what do you remember even from it?
Yeah. I sort of told this story already, but finding Deathclaws after I found the alien gun, I was just
Oh,
these
yeah.
things are easy.
Heck yeah.
I do remember being a baby. That was kind of fun. I know that there are people who could break the game and escape the vault as a baby and continue playing that way.
That's amazing.
I was really glad when you got to go back to the vault in the Trouble on the Home Front DLC, because I was crushing on Amada. Like, you grew up with your BFF Amada. I was like, no, I want to stay in the vault and hang out with her. Bring her with me to find my dad. So that you got to go back and kind of close up the loop on that vault story. That was your whole intro. Was fun. That was smart. Does anyone else do the thing where whenever I play the first time, I always play the good guy, but then I want to experience everything, so then I'll play it again as the bad guy and blow up Megaton, but do the whole thing, every bad choice you can make throughout, I choose. And
Yeah.
Well, that was something that they did in Fallout 3 was the karma, which was kind
I
of
was
new.
gonna
Yep.
say.
Yeah.
I think Knights of the Old Republic did that way better, but
I hated my discovery of the karma system because I was like, ooh, what's this Red Bull? You're a thief.
I know.
Yeah, Trash Can Carla in Fallout 4 hates my guts because I accidentally was ducking and hit pickpocket, and Trash Can Carla will not talk to me in Fallout 4. I'm like, it was an accident. Damn it, Carla.
Yeah, that was something that was always annoying about all the Fallout games, I think, is that nobody sees you. And somehow the world is rating you as a fucking asshole douchebag. And I'm like, nobody saw me. I just, what?
yeah.
But I guess
Well-
that's karma for you.
Again, thank God for VATS, because I hate when you're trying to help someone, a bunch of geckos are attacking this wastelander. I'm going to go help. Pop, pop, pop. Okay, I'm sorry I accidentally shot you in the head, but you were surrounded by 6 geckos, okay? I was trying to help, and now you're attacking. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about companions? That was the one spot where I didn't like moving from 2 to 3, because 2, you get to control the companion, so they do what you want them to do. And 3, I'm such a sniper. I'm very careful about everything. I don't run
Yes.
in. And so having a companion just alert the bad guys to
Yes.
everything I'm about to do.
Yeah. No, companions are a nightmare in 3 for sure. Yeah, they would absolutely ruin your stealth all the time. And Dogmeat just killed him. Dogmeat famously kills himself so much they have a perk where you get a new puppy every time Dogmeat offs himself
gosh.
somehow. And And then New Vegas, they got a little bit better. I think the companions
like
of Fallout
Gremlins.
4 definitely, they all have their own quests and backstories that really do change how you play the game.
Oh, okay. I was going to say 3, they all have quests and backstories too. I mean,
Yeah,
I would get a companion just to do their backstory and then cut them loose.
Yeah.
I wish so in Fallout 4, it's impossible for me not to like have the dog companions. I'm sorry, like so you give me a dog. Why can I only have the dog? Like, why can't I have one more? Okay,
Yeah.
like if you get dog meat, I feel like if you get dog meat, you should be allowed one more companion because it's like he's just a mule. He's not really good at fighting. Like, especially in 4, like I love dog meat because he can't really die. He just like goes, I'm hurt,
Yeah.
and then you can stim pack him, you know. And I think he should be more like if you get a pet type companion, there should be more shit for him. Like, you should be able to get, like, you can get armor for him, but it doesn't do anything to his stats. And I'm just like, you should be able to kit out your dog just the way that you kit out your companion.
Like
Because
John
the
Wick
only
4.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
only companion I have is the dog. So give me stuff for my dog. No, I occasionally will like I was like, maybe I'll try this other guy, and then you like leave. That's the other thing. Why can't your companions like do work well in your towns in Fallout 4?
Yeah.
That's really annoying because like I keep trying to assign the robot to do stuff, and then like I come back and he's unassigned. So like you can leave them there, but they should be able to work for you, just like a person in the town.
And this is why wanderers in movies always work alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun in 1 and 2 when you get like a whole posse of people traveling with you, and you like, you know what? I got 6 guys. I can take out Vegas. It won't be a problem.
Yeah, why not?
Oh shit! Vic just got blasted again. All right, save and load and save.
All right, John, why don't you do your rating for Fallout 3 DLCs?
Fallout 3's DLCs are not great. They're okay. I would say the best one is Point Lookout. It's a good, gloomy, moody DLC extra. It's not an expansion, like game necessary expansion, but it's just a fun, separate story. I'll put it that at the top. I'm going to put Operation Anchorage second. I know it's probably a lot of people's least favorite. I really enjoyed it. I think it's fun that they just said, you know what, let's just do a linear first-person like shooter on rails expansion for this. Plus, anybody who's ever been to Anchorage, Alaska, it's like, wow, Anchorage changes a lot in the next 50 years, like a lot, like whole mountain ranges, and there's just pipelines everywhere, like all over the place. But I started playing anytime I would start a new game, I would just immediately get out of the vault and go to Operation Anchorage and come out level 9 with a Chinese stealth suit. And there's some great weapons you get out of that. And it was a great way to start the game. It's just a fun, sort of lighthearted Chinese invasion of America.
Wait, so you exit the vault in somewhere in eastern United States, and then just suddenly you're in Alaska?
What it is you're going into a VR sim.
Okay.
You go to help the Brotherhood of Steel. They're trying to unlock a vault, but to do that, you have to complete a simulation of the invasion of Anchorage. So you have to play as a frontline soldier in that. So you just go play that. It opens. You get a bunch of cool weapons and stuff from there. I'll put Broken Steel next because that keeps the game going. That ups your level cap from 20 to 30. That gives you gameplay afterward. I would say that's more of an expansion than a DLC because it is main story. The Pit is really fun. Again, another side thing, and it's just you go to Pittsburgh, and it's basically like a big foundry town, and you're working to free a bunch of slaves. Definitely very Mad Max, Road Warrior type. And then
I can already tell I'm disagreeing with this ranking because you haven't mentioned my number 1 yet.
Which is funny is like every time you mention one, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that DLC. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that DLC.
Wait, did I forget one of them?
Isn't 3 with the alien ship where you get
Oh
abducted?
yeah, Mothership Zeta. I'm sorry. Yes, Mothership Zeta.
Yeah.
I had it here somewhere and it got off my list.
got abducted.
Mothership Zeta is also I would put right up there with Next to Point Lookout.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
that
would
one's
be my two
ridiculous. That is
favorites.
the most ridiculous, fun, silly expansion I think of all of these.
Yeah.
Like that one's just a goofy go fight aliens on a spaceship for a while.
That was someone who grew up playing Fallout 2 and was like, I wanna do this.
yeah,
Yeah. That's great.
All of these give you really good weapons after you're done.
I didn't love Anchorage, but I'm glad to say I like the world building of it because it's something you've heard about throughout the game all this time. And you're like, oh, I actually get to go play it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. So it was fun in that for me.
For me, the difference between something like an expansion and a DLC is they can charge you a stupid amount of money to fix a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what it feels like with a DLC sometimes.
Yeah.
But an expansion is usually like a true game, has a storyline. It's basically the game, but with like maybe even a new storyline, new characters. So
And it's usually
Yeah.
stuff that they were gonna have anyway, but cut out due to time and budget constraints. So
Exactly.
it's the
exactly.
real
And when we talk
experience.
about New Vegas, we'll get to that for sure. Yeah.
well, let's move on to New Vegas because we're kind of talking about this expansion discussion.
Marcy and I got into one of our classic friendly heated arguments over this one day.
And because I just like casually called it an expansion, and Cam was like, okay, so I was like, New Vegas, it's just an expansion, right? And he's like, no.
It's not exactly how my memory is, but maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit. He's like, it's a whole separate game. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like it's an expansion because in my mind, it was basically had all the same things as Fallout 3. It was basically the Fallout game, just a new storyline. So thus an expansion. But there definitely are differences. But I'll
Apparently,
let you talk
Marcy
about
considers Ghostbusters 2 just an expansion of Ghostbusters 1.
Oh,
They're gonna go back
It's
and
literally
fight after
it's
this.
literally called Ghostbusters 2. New Vegas isn't called Fallout 4. It's called New Vegas.
So I think that's why I do get a little heat. It's a pet peeve I have with the video game industry because I think it's all just marketing on their part. Like, oh, well, we use the same engine, so it's not a sequel, so we can like market it as something different. It's like it's a fucking sequel, okay? It's a whole new game with a whole new character and a whole new part of the world. I don't care that you're using the same software. I'm pretty sure Fallout 2 used the same software as Fallout 1.
yeah. I'll call it a concurrence. How about that?
Ooh.
Happens at the same
Ooh.
time as Fallout.
That sounds
3.
like
Yeah,
something
that's
from
what I
Lost.
was like.
Yeah.
It's kind of happening at the same time. But I will give this one to Cameron because it literally does. It's called a spin-off. And
Okay.
you know, they called it literally a spin-off. So it's not another per se like whole new chapter, but it's set in the Fallout 3 kind of universe with
Okay.
not
I'm gonna
all
just
the
keep my
things
mouth
that you
shut.
get in Fallout 4. But anyway, it's a whole separate game. It was created by a whole different studio.
And it has
This
hands
one
down
didn't
the
care.
best weapon interface and repair and upgrade system of any of these 3 games. God, I love New Vegas.
Well, and it's fun because I love Fallout 3. I love going to the Capital Wasteland. That was a fun and perfect place for the franchise to go. But it was so much fun to go back to the West
man.
too and like see geckos again and introduce Sunset
ants.
Sarsaparilla and
Yeah.
just all the stuff I remembered from Fallout 1 and 2 to be able to experience again in this first person format.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely feel like even just hearing you say that, I should go back to it. I just think that I had completely finished Fallout 3, and this just felt like a whole nother thing that I guess because the theme is more male-centric, like, I'm gonna go, like, to all these places to gamble, and I don't know, it just felt very Western-y.
Don't worry, there's a chip. There's a chip you're after. It's they still stick with some of the
You know,
Fallout stuff.
I don't know, like, the feel of it wasn't, like, my vibe.
Mercy, women are allowed to gamble. There is freedom.
I know. I just hate Vegas, like in
Yeah,
real
yeah.
life. So
You got the freaking omertas, man. Their casino's terrifying. Yeah.
Vegas is basically the bad guys in this, so there you get to fight Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's just like the feel of Vegas. It just makes me grossed out.
It's funny because the Vegas part is not my least favorite part of New Vegas. But I do like the whole cowboy. I like being like, just waking up in the desert and having to make your way from settlement to settlement and like tracking these clues. There's a little bit of a noir vibe to it, I guess. So maybe that's playing against you too, Marcy.
Yeah.
Also, New Vegas is just like, hey, you might want to head this way, but it's like, follow the road. Like, I'm not going to follow the road. 9 death claws when you're at level 2.
Exactly.
Like, New Vegas pulls the training wheels off immediately. It was like, no, you are in a dangerous world and you had better be ready for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they do a great job because, yes, it's open world. You could go left when you leave the town if you want, but you are not making it very far unless you are a save scummer to the max. Like, they definitely suggest you go right and follow the trail that way.
So I don't think I need to like describe the plot because you kind of have done it a couple of times already, that you're a courier who gets shot in the head, you don't know who you are, and then you're kind of forced to or put more on the rails to potentially save the Vegas area from all these different
Caesar's
factions,
Legion,
I guess.
yeah, Mr. House. There's a lot of factions in New Vegas. A lot of different ways you can go in New Vegas.
Yeah, I think New Vegas, their big change was they kind of updated the karma system to like reputation among the different factions.
Yes.
So every action would get you a different type of reputation with the different factions. So, you could not even meet the Caesars guys for half the game, but when you get there, you've already got a reputation based on what you've done, and they'll treat you differently based on your previous actions.
Interesting. Caesar's in it. I feel like I must have played it more than I thought because I remember meeting Caesar.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty far into the game.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how Caesar has so many people because I've killed so many of his legionnaires.
There's a lot of legionnaires. I mean, if people were making their way out of California, so you get population density there, that kind of thing.
True.
And this one, I'll talk about them now, but like I was saying with the DLCs, Honest Hearts and Lonesome Road are the 2 best DLCs of these 3 games. But they're also just main story expansions. They split the line. Honest Hearts with the Burned Man. It's like here's a Caesar's Legion background, whole extra story, and more, just really gives more depth to the story. And then Lonesome Road with Ulysses, that's where you find out about your character, your history, how you ended up where you ended up at the beginning. Again, it really gives more depth to the story, but man, are those some good expansions.
Yeah, my problem is I always wait. I think even with New Vegas, I must have waited to buy it to get the Game of the Year editions that usually have all the DLC already included. I did this with the Zelda games too. And they really are designed for you to install halfway through the game or when you beat the game. And so when you have them when you start the game, there must be a way to turn it off. But like I just started New Vegas, and you wake up, you finish the intro, you step outside, and suddenly it's just notification.
Yeah.
Like the signal you discovered. You
Fallout 4 does the same
thing.
Yeah.
I have all this junk or not junk, but I've got all this armor and weapons. I'm like, where did these come from? What are you doing? Is there not a way to just have these DLC like come into play after like 5 hours
like,
and then
don't,
7 hours?
Don't give this to me till I've hit level 15. Don't. That would be fun. Give
would be
that
a nice
option.
functionality.
Yeah. And then Old World Blues. It was the second most fun, ridiculous. I like it better than Mothership Zeta, as far as like if you're going to go with the silly expansions. Old World Blues is great character. The voices are just fantastic, and that is a like really silly but also really dark expansion. Like they're just like they cut out a piece of your brain. And you've already been shot in the head once, and then they cut out a piece of your brain. And you're looking at your piece of your brain in the jar. It's like you feel some weird feeling. You're not entirely sure what. I'm like, damn. And then Dead Money, the most horror expansion. I would give it more horror than Far Harbor and Fallout 4. I love Dead Money. It is definitely the most tense I've ever felt playing a Fallout game. And then Gunrunner's Arsenal and Courier's Stash. Those are just more mechanic expansion.
So, Paul, did you play New Vegas at all?
Yeah, I loved it. I do think I got to meeting Caesar. Every time I went near a Caesar's outpost, I always just killed everyone there I could find.
That's the right choice.
I think I had a pretty reasonable grudge against those guys. I don't remember a lot of it. It was just a lot of me sneaking and killing stuff.
I know, Paul, you and I are the same. I feel like we'll play a game, and unless it was like a super significant moment, like a lot of the quests and things just kind of like meld together.
Yeah, like
But-
you asked if I remembered stuff from Fallout 3. I don't remember if this is Fallout 3, but like the bottle cap factory.
Mm-hmm.
I loved like sneaking around the pipes up there, and there was like somewhere there was like a giant T-Rex that you could climb inside.
That's New Vegas. That's
So,
Snipton.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of why I like New Vegas too, is I've been to most of the real world locations where New Vegas took place.
Okay, that
That's
helps.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the T-Rex was fun.
All right, well, let's move on to Fallout 4, which came out in 2015.
9 years.
I think that's pretty crazy, like, to be actually looking at the dates that these things came out, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel really old right now when I'm talking about a game. Like, it's new when it came out, like, in 2015. Like, it still feels new to me, almost.
If you had asked me, I would have said 5 years ago max.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm still waiting for people to tell me to play it, so...
Let's play New Vegas again.
Your character starts out actually experiencing the drop of the nuclear bombs, and it escapes into Fallout Vault 111, where they are cryogenically frozen for 200 years. And weirdly, during your slumber, you wake up and see your husband, or well, it's husband for me, I don't know who it is for you, holding your baby, and somebody steals your baby and shoots your spouse.
Point blank, man, right in front of you.
And then you go looking for your son Sean in the wastes. And I am kind of annoyed. I just want to say how much I'm annoyed with the voice characters. I just want to find my son Sean. And I just like, I hate Sean after a certain point. I'm like, stop talking about Sean. Like, like I've already
Dog
like...
meat, on the other hand. My God, dog meat, are you okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I am in a cyber brothel right now. I don't need to talk about my son, damn it.
So for me, we've talked a lot about how hard it was for me to get through this because of the town building. And so I've already discussed a lot of stories about Fallout 4 for me, but I do really like the Far Harbor expansion. I did that one, and that was a really fun one to do. And I like how you find it. Like, it's sort of, you have to go to some random weird cabin where you then find the location and go back to Far Harbor. So that was fun. And I do like the actor that plays the girl that writes the newspaper. Like, that character was really well done and like had a really unique personality.
Piper,
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Who you meet in Diamond City for the first time. Not that I ever chose her as a companion, because of course I always have dog meat with me. And
she's actually a pretty fun companion. Like her, I like her quest.
Does she lick her own balls, John?
With the right add-on.
Who knows? Why not? Yeah.
what do you guys feel about, because isn't Commander Dance, or whatever his name, is that George Clooney's voice? Because Commander Dance from the Brotherhood of Steel sounds like he's George Clooney. And I'm like, I want to do you. Can we please have sex, please? I like it when they have fun voice actors in games, and I feel like Fallout has kind of missed out on that game a little bit. Paul and I have talked about other video games where some famous actors are in them, and Fallout, I feel like I don't recognize the voice actors in it often.
Other than Liam Neeson, yeah. Well, did you guys talk about Ron Perlman in your last episode?
Actually, we didn't talk about Ron Perlman,
Oh, man.
surprisingly. That intro is so classic, though.
Yeah.
Like, the war never changes. And I'm surprised that they couldn't pay Ron Perlman to just, like, do that intro for the television show. It's, like, such a missed opportunity.
I'm a few episodes away from the end. I was wondering if he was going to make a cameo by the end, because I haven't heard anything. I'm like, why is Ron Perlman not part of this?
It's insane. I love his, the war never changes. It's iconic to hear, but I really like his closing narrations too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the ends of the games, because he'll talk for 10 or 15 minutes sometimes, especially at the end of New Vegas. Like,
New Vegas. I saved just before, like, you make decisions, so I could see every ending, basically just to hear Ron Perlman narrate the endings to me.
yeah.
Nice.
And there are so many of that one and some little bits and pieces. I finally went to YouTube just to see it. It's like, I don't even know what choice I did or didn't make that I've never heard this one. But
Right.
yeah, it's fun to go. I'm glad YouTube playthroughs exist for that kind
For
of
that,
thing where I
yeah.
can just go listen to Ron Perlman talk.
Yeah, I think having talked through all this with you guys, I think another problem I have with Fallout 4 is one thing I really like about New Vegas, especially, and they do it somewhat in 3 also, is you do all the quests in your first town or two and then you leave and you're gone for a while. And then when you come back, like, 17 game hours of play later, like, you've done stuff and the people are like, yeah, I've heard about your adventures and, things have changed in that town. And like Fallout 4 is just so much back and forth.
Oh yeah,
just
you go to
going back
Sanctuary
that first
Hills
town
every half an hour. Yeah.
It was, and that it took away from that feeling of progression. It was just like, just ping ponging back and forth so much.
Yeah, I wish they would have had closed out the Sanctuary Hills storyline in a cleaner way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I think you're constantly finding these towns, and then there's the point where you take over the Minutemen's main base again.
Mm-hmm.
And that should have just been one big storyline. It shouldn't have had like all these other towns involved where you and what's his name, who's the Minutemen leader guy, go there and
Bill Minute.
It's like Bill Minute. Take it over. But you're right. That's a really good point, Cam, that it was always fun to come back to these little communities and see how your decisions had affected the community later, which you don't really get in Fallout 4 very much.
No.
Yeah, we were talking a bit ago about going back to like following the main quest. Because I always do try to justify it for like the first hour of gameplay. It's like, okay, I'm going to go do the side quest and ignore my missing father or child, but I'm doing it for this reason. And then like after a while, you kind of just forget all that and start playing the game more strategically. Like I need more experience. But yeah, with maybe because of the voice acting, because he's always talking about his kid or she's always talking about her kid. It's like, I am having a hard time justifying going back to this place to help you with some raiders. Like, I'm very close to where you said my kid is. Why would I turn around and go back?
Yeah. And I think that part of that goes back to the building of the community, but also if they're going to go that far, they should have gone a little farther. And at certain points, Sanctuary Hills maybe it can withstand an attack if you have 90 turrets around the town. Maybe it can shoot 6 super mutants for you. A little bit of out of your control autonomy for a few select of those communities where they can make some of their own decisions. Simple stuff, but it never quite gets to that level on the communities. And it's
When was the first time you didn't realize that you had to take out your fusion cores for your power armor and like you accidentally left it out and there was an attack on a village? And then some asshole got into your power armor and started using your fucking power armor to kill villagers.
I've never seen that. Oh, man.
I was back at Sanctuary Hills, and I'm like, doop-a-doo, and they're like, there's raiders attacking us. And then the guy that's the mechanic, he's like, oh, power armor. And he jumped in it. And I'm like, my power! And he's like shooting villagers in my power armor. And so now, this is another tedious thing that I have to do because I'm like, I don't want some fucking villager stealing my power armor. Every time I go anywhere, I remove my fusion core so that some rando can't steal it from me.
Interesting. Wow, I haven't seen that, but I've got a bunch of power armor standing around. I probably should collect my fusion cores on that. Man.
Yeah, so like I did learn that was a tactic. I did learn that you can actually, your villagers or whatever will use power armor if you leave fusion cores in it. So if you have a bunch of power armor, you just leave them open, and then when they get attacked, they'll get into them.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
New strategy.
Yeah.
I learned being fucking pissed off.
But yeah, Far Harbor is the best DLC, hands down, for Fallout 4. And then I really like Nuka World. If you haven't played Nuka World, you can spend hours and hours and hours in Nuka World. And there's a lot. That's where you can start to make some choices about whether you're a good person or a raider and really embrace the raider life. And that will affect the rest of the game. Like if you decide to go full raider, you will be treated as such in the rest of the game. And then almost all the other expansions are just additional game assets for, you got contraptions. Automatron, the storyline was fine, but the customizing and building your own robots, I haven't done crap with that ever since I finished the storyline for that DLC. It's like, great. I'm better with robots now. I'm not going to go build robots for hours. I'm already doing that with settlements. But the different workshops, I mean, they add some nice stuff. I've used some stuff from those, but the Nuka World and Far Harbor, at least the 2 storyline expansions, are really good.
For me, the appeal of Fallout, the intellectual property, the IP, is the feel of the game, the world. Like, whether it's 1 through 4, you go there for, like, the crazy 1950s weird atomic technology. You walk around, you're like, oh, a suicide.
Oh my God.
Remember those containers that people would go in because they were like mini shelters, but basically they would just die in there. Like, just weird, really unique stuff that doesn't have anything to do with your storyline. It's just like you might open a dumpster and find some weird toy, or, you know.
Well, some of my favorite things are like, they're not even side quests. They're just little stories they told through the graphics and the items there. Like, you'll stumble across a house, and because like the dad has a gun, and then like, or the skeleton has a gun, and then there's a baby skeleton in a crib, and you're like, oh shit, this guy just shot his whole family before shooting himself.
Oh,
before the
Hollis
bombs went
Brown
off.
it.
Yep.
Or like one of my favorites is I think it's 3, you come across a house with a Mr. Handy who doesn't know that the world's over, and you can say like, oh, go sing the kids a lullaby, and he'll float up the stairs to some skeletons in a bed and sing a lullaby from Ray Bradbury's short story, There Will Come Soft Rains, which is about a house that doesn't know the apocalypse
Ray
happened.
Bradbury short story.
Wow.
Yeah.
A smart house, yeah. So yeah, and it's not a quest. You don't get experience for coming across it. You don't get anything except maybe you steal the guy's gun. But yeah, just these great little in-world things you can find.
Yeah, I remember there were some slaves with those explosive collars on, and like they were told to run away.
Yeah.
That's from the pit. That's Fallout 3, the slave storyline. I really liked that storyline. Like, that got really involved, and it was, you know, it because you would accidentally do something and blow somebody's head off. Like, I was trying to save you, damn it.
Oh no. Yeah, I remember that. And for me, the idea of the vaults in general, I felt like was pretty original when they first came out with it.
Yeah.
And now, of course, like, that kind of idea is all over the place. I think from Fallout 1 and 2, they really did a huge expansion on that lore in 3 and 4, of, like, the experiments and stuff. I just think that's really fun. So to kind of end everything, I did want to go through what was like the most, I guess, impactful vault that you came across in 3 or 4. Paul, why don't you start?
Okay, I think the one that got me the most was, I'm a little not fresh on the details, but like you go into a hallucination and you're like a little kid, I think. And like there's a whole town that you get to interact with, and it's like pre-war.
That's the virtual reality
Not memory
vault.
lane. Yeah, it's the VR vault with the...
Yeah, it's part of the main storyline, I think, in 3, right?
In 3, yep.
I think that one just opened my mind to the possibilities of what they can fucking do to you in these vaults.
How about you, Cam?
Well, I want to reiterate, and I forget, did they do the experiment stuff in 2? Were there vaults? Did they reveal that they were doing experiments with the vaults?
It's really hard for me to remember.
But I do remember the feeling of discovering that, because you don't know that ahead of time. It's not really part of the game at all. It's just kind of part of this world building. And you're going around, you're like, I'm going to go raid this vault. And suddenly you're like reading these logs and being like, holy shit, my entire life has been a lie. Like, these vaults were not here to help people. They were running experiments on them. I just happened to be in one that didn't make me go crazy. So having said that, I think there's a few of them. The one I like is Vault 92, which was the vault where they put all the musicians. They got all like the best musicians and put them in vault.
With the white
But
noise.
then they had the white noise with subliminal messages, and they all started going crazy. And again, like all of them, it's you find these holotapes on these skeletons or read the terminal logs, and you start piecing together the story and being like, oh shit, this is terrible what happened here. And like the overseer was doing everything, and there's like a violinist in love with the scientist, and there was a really tragic story that you unveiled. And it was just really creepy and cool. I want to give honorable mention to not the vault, but the Dunwich building was also just a really fun side craft place. You Sidecraft, Lovecraft, Side Quest.
I like Sidecraft.
Lovecraftian Side Quest. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, just another really cool one you walk into and you're like, what is this? Oh shit, there's a story here.
John?
I'm going to go with Vault 114, Fallout 4. It was where there was the vault set aside for like all the Boston elites and politicians and rich people. And it was like just set up to be the poorest, most slovenly conditions in the vault. As soon as they got in there, they'd be like, crap. And just, it was basically just torturing rich people in the vault. I'm like, I can get behind that experiment.
Oh, hell yeah.
Honorable mention to the Gary Vault, the hallucinogenic drug vault, where all the dwellers in there just yell Gary, 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 Gary at you while they're attacking you.
That was mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
Vault 106. I
Oh,
think
106,
is
yeah.
the vault. Yeah. Like the hallucinogenic vault where like they're all crazy.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
backup if someone took the musician one. Yeah.
The
Also very good.
the Fallout New Vegas has, I think it was New Vegas, has one where like the plants and the creatures have melded together, the spores and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's either New Vegas or 4. That is a terrifying vault. I love playing that vault because those, like, it'll look like a plant sitting there and then it starts crawling toward you. Like, oh crap, that's a creature. Like, you're just triggering VATS again and again as you walk around because it's like, all right, VATS is going to know something's here before I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun because every time you walk in a vault, it's almost like a whole new game you're going into.
Yeah.
I think Paul and I talk about how much we like to read the lore, and sometimes it becomes a burden because you do want to read everything. But, like, I think you don't want to miss anything whenever you go in one of those vaults. And that's a really testament to the world that they built because you're like, I want to know everything that happened in this vault, you know?
And then Fallout 4, they put you in the Vault Tech seat. And, like, if you find a vault, you turn it into a camp. And then you start doing experiments on people. Like there are like, okay, get on this bike and ride. I'm going to give you drugs. Here, take as many drugs and then crank on this bike as much as you can. Or I'm going to shock you. It's like, oh, I am Vault Tech right now. Why am I doing this?
I would just like to say, move over Aperture Science. They've been doing testing since way before you.
That's true. Yeah.
Can I ask any like just dumb nitpicks you have about the games? For example, kind of the flip side of like finding these cool stories out in the wasteland is, I just remember when, you find you go to the Super Duper Mart and there's a Nuka-Cola vending machine and you open it up and you take all the caps and you're like, how has no one taken these caps? How am I the first person in the wasteland to open this vending machine? I don't buy that. I understand why it has to be there, but little things that kind of take you out of the game.
I would say for Fallout 4, that I felt like every quest was just like murder all the raiders in this place or clear this location. And that gets really boring. I feel like they could have done more with those storylines than just like, there's raiders there, go kill them. You got to clear this location. And I felt like Fallout 3 and certainly 1 and 2, you felt like there was a reason why you were doing the quests that you were doing. It was like a person in a town telling you, I need you to kill those guys like 20 times.
The karma system, like I'm just going back to how, like, so I have this whole category of game things that annoy me. And it's like, if you accidentally do something that no human would do, like I accidentally went up a full flight of stairs. That's like a Resident Evil thing. Accidentally stole something because I was trying to grab something next to it is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Any accident is a complete choice. Same consequence, same weight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys coming on to talk about Fallout with me. This is really fun. I feel like Cam and John have a much better long-term memory than me, so it's
I feel surrounded by Fallout legends here.
I know.
I gotta give it. I mean, I did some research. I had to be like, oh, Marcy wants to know what fun vault. I know I found some fun vaults. What were all the vaults you could find?
Oh, yeah.
No, I remember that. Okay, let me write down the number so I sound like John.
I had to look up my number for sure. I was like, I know which vault I'm thinking of. I don't know. Besides the starting vaults, there are very few that I know the number of.
But like, I feel with the four of us, we have enough gaming experience that somebody listening to this is really hopefully going to get a lot out of what Fallout means to our generation of people. And the fact that they're doing this television show, and I kind of mentioned this before, I had a little discussion with somebody online because they were complaining about like all the Western stuff or whatever. And I was like, have you played Fallout? Like, there are so many parts of Fallout that involve cowboys, like that involve different things. And then I got to school the person because I was like, well, in Fallout 1 and 2, and they were like, oh, I never played 1 and 2. And I'm like, then you're not an expert, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys probably talked about the music in 1 and 2, right? Like, Fallout is a video game that made like a bunch of teenagers fans of the ink spots. Like, I am now a fan of like 1960s cowboy music because of this video game series.
Yeah.
And
That is a good
it's
point.
amazing.
Yeah, I know a lot of old-timey music strictly because of these games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, like, it gives a vibe, right? And
Yeah.
I think if you haven't watched all of Fallout, the television show, it's amazing. It fits, like, so many fun pieces of what it is to play Fallout, but actually has a good storyline. I mean, there's just so much to love about the TV show, even if you haven't played the games, but as a lover of the games, so many Easter eggs, so much cool shit. Like, you can choose the role-playing game person, which is like the Vault Dweller. You can choose to be the ghoul, who's kind of like a bad guy. Like, they have all the different karmic people that you can play in the game represented as actors in the show. Like, it's just so good. So I hope this helps prep you for the TV show if you haven't watched it, and if not, it will add to your enjoyment of the show. All right, guys. Well, why don't you do a quick plug of your shows, your podcasts?
Sure. Over on Green Shirt and Newbie's Trek to the Next Generation, I'm finishing up Star Trek The Next Generation for the very first time. We're almost halfway through Season 7. We're doing our DS9 minutes as well. We're into Season 2 of DS9. We discuss each episode in 9 minutes, and it's been a lot of fun. Go listen back to the previous seasons, which had Marcy, and to where we are now. She still pops in from time to time as well.
And on Open Pike Night, we discuss Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And since there isn't much Star Trek Strange New Worlds, we've been doing a lot of interviews with cast and crew and writers, creatives, and it has been a fantastic time. We have 3 times as many episodes as there are episodes of the television series so far. So go check out Open Pike Night at Open Pike on every social media.
All right. Well, so our next episode will be going over the first episode of the Fallout TV show from Prime. And I'm hopeful that John or Cam will join us for some of those episodes. Certainly not all of them, but, you know, I've asked them once they finish the show to pick ones that they might like. And hopefully they'll be back to chat about Fallout some more.
Absolutely.
Looking forward
All
to
right.
it.
Hell yeah.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Podcasting. Podcasting never changes.